Okay, let's dive in. Picture this. Arjuna, the great warrior, he's right there between these two massive armies, chariot ready.
Yeah, the moment of truth.
Exactly. But instead of knocking an arrow, he just drops his bow, totally overwhelmed.
Such a powerful image.
It really is. And it raises that question. What happens when someone facing this huge moral choice just gives up? That's exactly where the Gita's second chapter kicks off.
And this isn't just some ancient legend. It really speaks to us, doesn't it? Arjuna's despair, that feeling when you're facing something enormous and conflicting,
Hmm.
it feels very real, very relatable to our own inner struggles.
Absolutely. And for this deep dive today, we've got some fantastic resources. We're looking at the Gita Home Study, Swami Paramarthananda's classes, and Sankara's commentary, too.
A really rich foundation.
Definitely. And our aim isn't to get bogged down in super complex philosophy, but to pull out the core insights that might actually help you navigate your own difficult situations.
Hmm. Because this moment for Arjuna, the start of chapter 2, it's pivotal. He basically shifts gears completely.
How so?
Well, he goes from being this warrior, focused externally on the battle, to becoming a disciple. He turns inward, asking, what is really the right thing for me to do?
Right, right. The surrender. Okay, so here's the plan for today. First, we'll really dig into that surrender, why he does it, how deep his despair goes, and his plea for guidance.
Yeah, the raw emotion of it.
And then we'll get into the first teachings Krishna offers him. This starts getting into the nature of the self, who we really are, and how that connects to action and consequences.
And hopefully we'll find some aha moments there, connecting these ancient ideas to how we live today.
So let's start with Arjuna's state. What brings this incredible warrior to his knees, emotionally speaking?
Well, our sources, like the Gita Home Study and Swami Paramarthananda, they paint a picture of utter collapse. He sees his family cousins, uncles, even his revered teachers standing on the other side, ready to fight.
People he respects, loves.
Exactly. And seeing them triggers this intense grief, this delusion, as the texts call it. He starts questioning everything. Is victory worth this cost?
He's not just worried about losing the battle, then.
No, not at all. It's much deeper. He foresees the destruction of families, the end of traditions, the breakdown of dharma, the whole social and moral fabric. He's thinking about the ripple effects.
Yeah, the Gita Home Study mentions that specifically his concern for dharma, for the family lines, the potential rise of adharma, chaos.
Right. He's worried about the long-term societal damage, the moral decay that could follow such a war fought against one's own kin. It's a profound ethical concern about the consequences.
And it's not just in his head, is it? There are physical signs.
Oh, absolutely. The Gita Home Study points this out vividly. He physically casts aside his bow and arrows. Think about the tools of his trade, his identity as a warrior. Gone.
Wow. A complete rejection of his role.
His mind is just swamped with sorrow. It's a total surrender, body and mind.
So what are the main arguments he actually makes? Why does he say he can't fight?
He lists several reasons. The destruction of families is key. He talks about how killing his own relatives leads to sin, how it disrupts the ancestral rites and traditions.
The whole lineage thing.
Yes, and the chaos that erupts when these traditions break down. He sees it leading to widespread adharma. He's really grappling with this conflict between his duty as a kshatriya, a warrior, and his feelings of compassion and kinship.
It's a terrible bind.
It truly is. And it's right in the middle of this agony that the crucial shift happens.
The surrender you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. He stops arguing against fighting and starts asking for guidance. He explicitly turns to Krishna and says, basically, tell me what is truly best for me. I take refuge in you. I am your disciple.
That's the turning point, from warrior to student.
Precisely. This moment of seeking refuge, admitting he doesn't know the answer, is what opens the door for all the teachings of the Gita.
And how do commentators like Sankara view this moment?
Well, drawing from the general understanding of Sankara's perspective, this surrender isn't seen as weakness. It's actually a necessary prerequisite for true knowledge.
You have to empty the cup first, sort of.
Kind of, yeah. Arjuna has to acknowledge his confusion, his inability to see clearly through the fog of his emotions and his attachments, before he can really receive the profound wisdom Krishna is about to share.
Okay, so Arjuna's thrown down his weapons, he's full of grief and confusion, and he's asked for help. What's the very first thing Krishna says? How does he respond to this crisis?
Well, Krishna's opening lines are quite striking, maybe even a bit jarring at first. He essentially tells Arjuna he's grieving for those who shouldn't be grieved for.
Wait, he shouldn't be grieved for? He's looking at his family about to potentially die. How does that work?
It sounds paradoxical, doesn't it?
Hmm.
But this is Krishna's way of immediately shifting the focus. It sets the stage for the core teaching about the true nature of the self, the Atman.
Okay, the Atman, the eternal self. Let's unpack that. What does that mean here?
The fundamental idea, and this comes through strongly in Gita Home Study, Paramarthananda, and Sankara's commentary, is that this self, your deepest essence, is eternal. It wasn't born in the way we think of birth, and so it can't die.
It's beyond the physical body.
Exactly. The self is unborn, undying, unchanging. It doesn't perish when the body perishes. Swami Gampirananda's translation of Sankara really emphasizes this. The self never ceases to be because it never truly originated in time. It's birthless, timeless.
So there's a part of us, the real us, that's constant.
That's the teaching. And connecting this, some sources describe consciousness itself as self-evident, self-existing. Doesn't need anything else to prove it's there. It just is.
That's a big concept, thinking about that. If there's this unchanging core, maybe the day-to-day anxieties, the ups and downs, they don't have the same weight.
That's definitely one implication. The idea is
Sure.
that you typically identify with this body, these thoughts, these emotions. That's not the whole story, not the deepest reality.
So the body is,
Yeah.
just temporary.
According to these teachings, yes. It's seen as impermanent, always changing. Swami Paramarthananda uses analogies like comparing the physical body to bodies in a dream or even magical creations. They seem real, but they have an end.
Like a vehicle for the self.
That's a good way to put it. A temporary vehicle for the eternal consciousness.
Okay, but hang on. We see birth and death. People are born, people die. How does that fit with an eternal self?
Right. The teachings don't deny the appearance of birth and death. Those are events that happen to the physical body, in the physical realm. We observe these changes.
But they don't affect the self.
Correct. The crucial distinction is that these changes belong to the body, the impermanent aspect, not the eternal Atman. Sankara's commentary is very clear on this. He negates all the standard changes: birth, existing for a time, growing, changing form, decaying, dying for the self. The self is considered undecaying and constant.
Okay, that's a fundamental shift in perspective. So you have this eternal self, untouched by physical changes. How does knowing this circle back to Arjuna's immediate problem, should he fight or not?
This is where Krishna starts weaving in the idea of Svadharma.
Svadharma, that means one's own duty, right?
Yes, exactly. Your specific role and responsibilities in life. For Arjuna, being a Kshatriya, a warrior, his Svadharma in this context is presented as fighting this righteous war.
Even though it involves killing family.
Even then, Swami Paramarthananda points out that actions which might seem harsh aren't necessarily adharma or wrong if they align with your Swadharma. In fact, not performing your duty according to this teaching is what leads to negative consequences, to sin.
That's tough. It asks you to put duty above personal feelings, potentially very strong ones. Have you ever felt that kind of conflict in your own life, maybe on a smaller scale, where responsibility pulls one way and emotion another?
I think most people can relate to that tension. The Gita suggests finding clarity by understanding your inherent role and acting from that place, even when it's painful.
So for Arjuna, not fighting would actually be the wrong move here, according to Krishna.
That's the initial argument being made. Krishna points out the negative outcomes if Arjuna backs down now out of fear or delusion. His reputation would be ruined. His enemies would mock him.
He loses honor.
Exactly. Sankara's commentary notes that the sorrow from being scorned for abandoning his duty would be immense. And Krishna adds another layer. He says, look, if you fight and you're killed, you attain heaven. If you fight and you win, you enjoy the earth.
So either way, by doing your duty, there's a positive outcome.
From that perspective, yes, it reframes the stakes beyond just immediate physical survival or gain in this world.
That definitely puts a different spin on things. It links action and consequence to something beyond the immediate battlefield.
It does. And tied into this is the idea of dealing with pleasure and pain.
How so?
They're described as temporary, arising from the senses, contacting objects like heat and cold, happiness and distress. They come and go.
And the advice is?
To learn to endure them. To bear these dualities with equanimity without getting swept away by desire for pleasure or aversion to pain.
Easier said than done, I imagine. How do you act without being pushed and pulled by those feelings?
And that leads directly to one of the most crucial principles introduced here. Acting without attachment to the results.
Karma yoga, right? Or the beginning of it.
Precisely. The seed of karma yoga, Krishna tells Arjuna. Fight because it is your duty, your svadharma. Don't be driven by wanting victory or fearing defeat. Don't fixate on gain or loss, pleasure or pain.
Just do the action because it's the right action to do in your role.
That's the core message here. Rise up and fight with determination. Sankara highlights this focus on the duty because whether you win or lose in the conventional sense, fulfilling your dharma brings its own reward.
So the motivation shifts entirely. It's not about what's in it for me.
Exactly. It's about aligning your action with dharma. And, as the Gita Home Study notes, this initial teaching skillfully blends Sankhya, the knowledge of the eternal self we discussed with yoga, the path of dedicated action.
Setting the foundation for everything else that follows in the Gita.
Yes. Sankara also touches on this, distinguishing between steadfastness in knowledge, for those already enlightened, and this yoga of action, for those, like Arjuna at this point, who are still working towards that understanding.
Okay, wow. We've covered a lot, from Arjuna's rock-bottom despair to these profound first teachings. Let's try and distill this. What are the absolute key takeaways for you listening to this deep dive?
I think there are a few core things. First, this idea of your true nature, yourself, being something eternal, something separate from the ups and downs of your body and emotions, that's huge.
Right, the unchanging core.
Second, the importance of understanding your svadharma, your own specific duties and responsibilities, and aligning yourself with them.
Even when it's hard.
Especially when it's hard, perhaps. And third, that initial guidance towards acting without being completely hooked on the results. Focusing on the action itself, done as duty.
So thinking about applying this, how can we use these ideas when we face our own battlefields, those tough choices, overwhelming feelings, conflicting duties in our lives?
Well, maybe start by considering that idea of the constant inner self. When things feel chaotic or overwhelming, could remembering that there's a part of you untouched by the storm offer some stability?
Like an anchor point within.
Perhaps. And think about times maybe fear of failure or wanting a specific outcome really badly has paralyzed you or led you to avoid something you knew you should do.
We've all been there.
Could focusing more on just doing the duty or the right action in that situation, detached from worrying quite so much about the specific result, actually free you up to act more clearly, more effectively?
That definitely gives us a lot to chew on. Okay, so a final thought to leave you with. If our true essence really is beyond birth and death, beyond all these temporary changes, how does that understanding really shift the importance we give to our daily worries, our anxieties about messing up, our perceived failures? Is it, as Swami Vidyatatmananda sort of alluded to, about becoming thick-skinned in a detached way, or is it something deeper?
Is it about recognizing this profound, unshakable reality within us that exists regardless of external successes or failures?
That's the question to ponder.
Absolutely. And remember, we've only just scratched the surface of Chapter 2 here. The Gita is this vast ocean of wisdom.
So much more to explore.
Definitely. So think about what resonated with you today. What questions popped up? We really encourage you to continue your own exploration of these amazing teachings.